By sunrise, an entire Russian logistics sector in eastern Ukraine had ceased to exist. 4 artillery pieces burning, 10 supply trucks reduced to twisted metal, 1 ammunition depot detonating for hours, and a command post buried under the rubble of a collapsed building, with an estimated 15 to 20 Russian officers dead inside. All of it, every target, every explosion, every kill, traced back to a single Ukrainian reconnaissance drone that had lifted off from a muddy field the evening before and stayed airborne for 11 unbroken hours, watching, marking, and guiding destruction with a patience that no Russian radar, no Russian jammer, and no Russian commander could counter. This happened just days ago, somewhere along the eastern front in Ukraine, in territory that Russian forces invaded and now struggle to hold. And the details, confirmed through open-source intelligence, satellite imagery analysis, and multiple battlefield reports from Ukrainian defense forces, paint a picture of a military operation so precise, so methodical, and so economically devastating that it deserves to be studied in every war college on Earth. This is how one drone, costing less than $20,000, inflicted up to $67 million in confirmed losses on the Russian military in a single night. The Ukrainian drone operator, a young sergeant with over a year of combat reconnaissance experience, launched the aircraft at dusk. The air temperature hovered just above freezing. Low clouds blanketed the flat, scarred terrain of eastern Ukraine, terrain that has been fought over for months, where every tree line conceals a position and every road carries the scars of Russia's failing invasion. The drone was small, quiet, and nearly invisible against the grey winter sky. It carried no weapons and no explosives, just a high-resolution thermal imaging camera and an encrypted data link to a Ukrainian command post, where a team of intelligence analysts and artillery coordinators sat in a dimly lit basement, their screens glowing, waiting. The drone crossed the front line at an altitude carefully chosen to avoid both Russian small arms and the intermittent radar emissions of an aging S-300 battery that Ukrainian electronic intelligence units had been monitoring for weeks. The Russians did not detect the crossing. They had no idea what was coming. Stay with this story. What happens in the next 60 seconds of this video will show you how a single Ukrainian brigade dismantled an entire Russian support network, while the Russian soldiers below slept, waited, and died. The first target revealed itself within 40 minutes. The drone's thermal camera picked up a cluster of hot signatures at an abandoned farm complex approximately 12 kilometers behind the Russian front line. 7 military trucks parked in tight formation, engines idling, cargo beds covered with tarps, 2 UAZ command vehicles near a telescoping communications antenna. Generators running inside the buildings, radiating heat that lit up the thermal display like a beacon. This was not a random collection of vehicles. Ukrainian intelligence analysts, watching the feed in real time, immediately classified it as a functioning Russian logistics depot. A supply node feeding ammunition, fuel, and equipment to forward positions. The operator marked the coordinates, transmitted them, and kept flying. Over the next 2 hours, the drone moved methodically across the sector, and what it uncovered was staggering. The Russian invaders had constructed an entire support network hidden among the villages and farmsteads of occupied eastern Ukraine. Supply lines, command posts, artillery positions, all of it built on stolen land, in stolen buildings, sustained by a logistics chain that was about to be severed completely. The second discovery came 3 kilometers northeast. A school building, repurposed by the Russian military as a company-level command post. The thermal signature was unmistakable. Dozens of human heat sources inside, 4 armored vehicles parked under camouflage netting outside, soldiers moving between the building and a nearby trench system. Radio intercepts, cross-referenced in real time by Ukrainian signals intelligence, confirmed the classification. Russian officers were inside, coordinating operations for their section of the front. The third discovery was 5 kilometers further east. 12 supply trucks, fuel tankers, ammunition carriers, cargo vehicles, staged in a column along a tree-lined road, engines running, preparing to move forward under cover of darkness to resupply Russian positions. Drivers moved between vehicles on the thermal feed, unaware that every step was being watched and recorded by Ukrainian eyes hovering silently above. The fourth target made the Ukrainian artillery specialists in the command post lean forward in their chairs. Near a destroyed gas station, the drone identified four Tu-19 Mesta-S self-propelled howitzers positioned in a shallow tree line, their barrels visible through gaps in the canopy, ammunition vehicles parked alongside. This was the Russian battery that had been shelling Ukrainian defenders in the sector for weeks. The guns that had killed Ukrainian soldiers, destroyed Ukrainian equipment, terrorized Ukrainian positions. And now, for the first time, their exact coordinates were known. By the third hour, the Ukrainian command post had the complete picture. 4 high-value targets, 15-kilometer radius, all identified by a single drone that the Russian invaders did not know existed. Which of these Russian targets shocked you most? A. The artillery battery. B. The supply convoy. C. The ammunition depot. D. The command post. Tell us in the comments. The Ukrainian brigade commander made the decision that would define the night. The artillery battery first, eliminate Russia's fire support capability before anything else. Then the supply convoy, catch it before it's scattered. Then the depot. Then the command post last, ensure that Russian officers could not coordinate any response while their logistics burned around them. The order went out across encrypted channels. Ukrainian HIMARS crews, preloaded and positioned well behind the front, received their firing coordinates. Ukrainian FPV drone teams powered up their aircraft. Ukrainian artillery batteries loaded precision-guided rounds. Everything converged on 4 points in the darkness. And the killing began. At approximately 0200 hours, HIMARS rockets screamed across the night sky and slammed into the Russian howitzer positions. The Ukrainian drone operator watched in real time. The first rocket impacted directly on the lead Mesta-S. The thermal image bloomed white-hot as the vehicle's stored ammunition detonated in a catastrophic explosion. The second and third rockets struck within seconds, destroying the ammunition vehicles and 2 more howitzers. The fourth Mesta-S tried to move. Its engine flared on the thermal feed as the driver desperately attempted to flee, but a follow-up round caught it before it cleared the tree line. The vehicle lurched, stopped, and erupted in flames. 4 Russian self-propelled howitzers eliminated in under 90 seconds. The Russian artillery crews, the Russian ammunition handlers, the Russian officers who had directed weeks of bombardment against Ukrainian defenders, annihilated. The camera swung north. No time to pause. The supply convoy was next. 12 Russian trucks were still staged on the road, but the drivers had heard the explosions 5 kilometers away. On the thermal feed, the Ukrainian operator could see figures running between vehicles, doors slamming, engines revving. The Russian convoy was trying to scatter. It was 14 seconds too late. Ukrainian 155mm artillery opened fire with cluster munitions. The first rounds landed among the forward vehicles. Fuel tankers erupted in massive white flares as thousands of liters of diesel ignited, sending pillars of fire visible for kilometers. Ammunition trucks detonated in secondary explosions that rocked the drone's camera feed. Russian drivers who had leapt from their cabs were caught in the open, exposed, disoriented, burning. Those who ran for the tree line were tracked by Ukrainian FPV drone operators who had been scrambled for exactly this moment, their small kamikaze drones diving out of the darkness to strike individual Russian soldiers and vehicles that escaped the initial barrage. Within 20 minutes, 10 of the 12 Russian supply trucks were burning or destroyed. The remaining 2 reversed down the road and fled south, but Ukrainian drone operators marked their retreat and passed the data to a hunter-killer team for pursuit at first light. Look at this sequence of events. Look at the precision. Look at how every element, the reconnaissance drone overhead, the HIMARS battery, the artillery, the FPV teams, work together as a single machine of destruction. This is what modern Ukrainian defense looks like. This is why Russian columns keep dying. The supply depot was next. By now, the Ukrainian drone operator had been airborne for over 6 hours. Eyes burning from staring at the thermal display, hands steady on the controls, focused with the kind of discipline that separates Ukrainian professionals from the chaos of the Russian military machine. At the farm complex, the situation had changed. The Russian soldiers inside had heard the explosions and seen the orange glow of burning vehicles on the horizon. On the thermal feed, the Ukrainian operator watched frantic activity. Russian troops loading crates onto trucks, vehicles starting, figures sprinting between buildings. The Russians were trying to evacuate the depot. They were trying to save their supplies. The Ukrainian commander ordered an immediate strike, 2 HIMARS rockets. The first hit the largest building, the one packed with ammunition, fuel, and supplies that were supposed to sustain Russian operations for 2 weeks. The explosion was enormous. Secondary detonations continued for over 4 minutes as stored Russian ammunition cooked off, sending shrapnel and debris hundreds of meters in every direction. The thermal image showed the entire structure engulfed in white-hot fire, flames reaching 30 meters into the air. The second rocket struck the vehicle park, destroying 5 of the 7 trucks and igniting a fuel storage point that would burn for hours. Russian soldiers scattered into the surrounding fields like insects fleeing a burning nest. Some ran toward the road, others threw themselves into drainage ditches. Ukrainian FPV drone teams hunted them across the frozen landscape with thermal cameras. One by one, the fleeing Russian troops were found and engaged. It was methodical, precise, and devastating. Is Russian military incompetence a strategic failure or a systemic suicide? Think about it. Drop your answer in the comments. And then came the final target, the command post. Nearly 9 hours had passed since the Ukrainian drone first lifted off. The school building had gone dark, lights extinguished, vehicles repositioned, the communications antenna retracted. The Russian officers inside clearly understood they were in danger, but they had not moved. Perhaps they believed their position was still unknown. Perhaps the roads around them, now littered with burning wreckage and craters, offered no escape. Perhaps they were simply paralyzed, as so many Russian commanders have been throughout this war, frozen between the impossibility of retreat and the futility of holding position. Ukrainian artillery delivered the final blow. A precise salvo of guided rounds struck the school building and its immediate surroundings. The structure collapsed inward on the thermal feed. No secondary explosions. This was a command post, not an ammunition dump, but the destruction was absolute. According to battlefield intelligence indicators, between 15 and 20 Russian officers and communications specialists were inside when the building fell. Confirmed killed. The drone remained on station for another 2 hours, scanning for remaining targets. It found 3 more Russian vehicles attempting to flee the area and directed FPV drones to intercept 2 of them. The third disappeared into a civilian area. And the Ukrainian operators held fire because, unlike the Russian military, Ukrainian defenders do not strike where civilians shelter. At approximately 1300 hours, 11 hours after takeoff, the reconnaissance drone returned and landed in the same muddy field it had departed from. Its battery was nearly depleted. Its camera had recorded 11 hours of continuous footage, and the Russian sector it had surveyed had been dismantled, target by target, with the precision of a surgeon and the impact of an earthquake. How many Russian vehicles do you think one Ukrainian FPV drone team can destroy in a single night? A. 3 or 5. B. 6 to 10. C. More than 10. Drop your answer below. Now let us talk about what Russia lost, in dollars. The 2S-19 Mesty AS self-propelled howitzer is one of Russia's most important artillery platforms. Each unit costs approximately $4 to $5 million to manufacture. Russia lost 4 of them in under 90 seconds. That is $16 to $20 million in artillery, eliminated by Ukrainian HIMARS rockets, costing roughly $150,000 each. 6 rockets, $900,000 total. To destroy $20 million of Russian firepower, a cost-exchange ratio of more than 20 to 1 in Ukraine's favor. The supply convoy carries an even more devastating price tag. Each KAMAZ military truck costs approximately $80,000 to $100,000. But the trucks are replaceable. What they carried is not. Intelligence estimates verified through post-strike analysis indicate the convoy was transporting approximately 400 tons of mixed supplies: artillery shells, tank ammunition, mortar rounds, diesel fuel, and rations. The replacement cost of that cargo, at current wartime production rates, with Russian defense factories already running triple shifts and still falling behind, $12 to $15 million. And every destroyed convoy creates a gap in the supply chain that takes weeks to fill, leaving Russian soldiers on the front line without ammunition, without fuel, without food. The logistics depot multiplies this crisis. Ukrainian intelligence assessed that the farm complex contained supplies sufficient to sustain a Russian battalion tactical group for 10 to 14 days. Ammunition, fuel, medical supplies, communications equipment, spare parts, winter gear, rations. Total estimated replacement value, $8 to $12 million. But the true cost is measured in time, finding a new location, transporting new supplies, establishing security, setting up communications. Rebuilding a logistics node takes far longer than destroying one. Multiple battlefield sources confirmed it took the Russian forces in this sector nearly 2 weeks to restore supply operations. The command post loss adds a dimension of cost that cannot be measured in rubles alone. Training a Russian battalion-level staff requires months. The 15 to 20 officers killed in that strike, likely including a lieutenant colonel commanding the sector, represented years of institutional knowledge, operational experience, and leadership capacity that Russia's military is hemorrhaging at an unsustainable rate. According to verified open-source tracking, Russia has lost over 6,000 confirmed officers since the full-scale invasion began. Each loss forces the promotion of less experienced, less capable replacements, degrading command quality across the entire Russian military. Estimated training and replacement cost for the officers killed, $3 to $5 million, not counting the incalculable cost of lost experience. Major revelations from this operation also concern the Mester S inventory specifically. Russia began the full-scale invasion with an estimated stockpile of approximately 700 S-19 systems, including active service and storage reserves. Open-source intelligence now indicates Russia has lost over 300 of these platforms, destroyed, captured, or damaged beyond repair. New production is estimated at only 20 to 30 units per year. At the current rate of losses, Russia will exhaust its Mester S inventory within 12 to 18 months. Each destroyed howitzer brings Russia closer to the point where its artillery doctrine, the foundation of Russian military strategy, collapses entirely. If facts like these shatter Russian propaganda myths, type truth in the comments. What would you change about Ukraine's drone strategy? Tell us below. Total estimated financial losses from this single 11-hour Ukrainian operation. Self-propelled howitzers, 4 Mester S systems, $16 to $20 million. Supply trucks and cargo, 10 vehicles plus contents, $13 to $16 million. Logistics depot, building, equipment, stored supplies, $8 to $12 million. Command post, equipment, communications, vehicles, $2 to $3 million. Personnel losses, training and replacement costs for 70 to 90 Russian soldiers and 15 to 20 Russian officers, $8 to $12 million. Miscellaneous vehicles, generators, communications equipment, $2 to $4 million. Total confirmed damage, $49 to $67 million. The cost of the Ukrainian reconnaissance drone that made it all possible, approximately $15,000 to $20,000. The cost of the HIMARS rockets, artillery shells, and FPV drones expended, approximately $2 to $3 million. Total Ukrainian expenditure for the entire operation, roughly $3 million. $3 million to inflict $67 million in damage. A ratio that would make any military strategist pause. A ratio that exposes the fundamental flaw in Russia's approach to this war. You cannot win by throwing mass at precision. You cannot overwhelm an enemy who sees everything you do, knows everywhere you are, and can strike you at any moment with weapons that cost a fraction of what they destroy. Consider the broader implications. According to confirmed reports, Ukrainian drone units destroyed or seriously damaged more than 29,000 heavy weapon systems in the past year alone. Ukrainian FPV and bomber drones carried out over 800,000 successful strikes in the previous 12 months, each one confirmed by drone video footage. The highest-scoring Ukrainian drone brigade recorded over 18,000 confirmed hits on individual Russian soldiers, along with 124 Russian tanks, 319 Russian armored vehicles, and 257 Russian artillery systems destroyed in a single year by that one unit alone. These are not isolated incidents. This is a systematic, industrial-scale destruction of Russian military capability, executed by Ukrainian defenders who are innovating faster than the Russian military can adapt. Russia responds by welding metal cages onto tanks and calling them protected. Ukraine responds by finding the gaps in those cages and dropping munitions through them. Russia sends columns of armored vehicles racing down open roads in occupied eastern Ukraine. Ukraine waits, watches from above, and turns those roads into kill zones. The pattern repeats across every sector of the front, every day, every night, and the Russian losses mount higher with each cycle. The Russian defense industry cannot keep pace with the destruction. Factories across Russia are running around the clock, but they are largely refurbishing Soviet-era equipment, pulling ancient T-55 tanks and BMP-1 infantry fighting vehicles from storage depots where they have rusted for decades, applying minimal upgrades and shipping them to the front in Ukraine, where Ukrainian drones and artillery destroy them within days or weeks of arrival. New production of modern systems like the T-90M tank or the 2S-19 MSDAS howitzer is estimated at only a few hundred units per year, a fraction of the rate at which Russia is losing them on the battlefield. This is the mathematics of attrition, and Russia is on the wrong side of every single equation. That is the reality of this war. That is why Russia is bleeding, not in one dramatic collapse, but in 1,000 precise cuts, each one guided by Ukrainian eyes in the sky that never blink, never tire, and never look away. The Russian soldiers who were stationed in that sector did not choose this war. Many were mobilized men, pulled from their homes, handed outdated equipment, given weeks of training instead of months, and shipped to hold positions in a country where they are invaders, occupiers, unwanted. Their Russian commanders told them the supply lines were secure. Their Russian officers assured them reinforcements were coming. Russian propaganda channels told them they were winning. And then, one cold night in eastern Ukraine, a quiet drone appeared in the sky above them, and everything they had been told became impossible to believe. This is the war that Russia cannot win. Not because Russia lacks soldiers, it has sent over 1 million into Ukraine. Not because Russia lacks weapons, it has emptied Soviet-era warehouses from the Urals to Siberia. But because Russia lacks what Ukraine possesses in abundance: precision, intelligence, adaptability, and the unbreakable will of a people defending their own land against an invader who underestimated them from the very first day. Over 1.25 million Russian casualties, over 11,000 Russian tanks destroyed, over 24,000 Russian armored vehicles lost, over 37,000 Russian artillery systems eliminated. The numbers, confirmed and verified by multiple independent sources, speak louder than any propaganda broadcast from Moscow. And somewhere in eastern Ukraine, right now, as you watch this, another quiet Ukrainian drone is lifting off from another muddy field. Its camera is warming up, its operator is settling in for a long night, and the Russian forces below, the Russian soldiers, the Russian officers, the Russian supply convoys, have no idea what is coming. 3 questions before you go. First, if a single Ukrainian drone costing $20,000 can destroy $67 million in Russian military assets, how long can Russia's war economy survive this rate of exchange? Second, the Russian soldiers in that sector went 6 days without supplies, without command, without fire support. How many other Russian sectors across the front line are one drone mission away from the same fate? Third, if this is what one drone, one operator, and one night can achieve, what happens when Ukraine fields the 7 million drones it has planned for this year? Think about that. Subscribe to Steel Command, share this video. The truth about Russia's invasion does not hide behind propaganda. It flies, silent, patient, and lethal, above the battlefields of Ukraine, and the world needs to see it.